Welcome to Activate Your Introvert, the weekly show to help you recognize and unlock the entrepreneur skills in your business. In this week's show, we're talking about how good leadership helps the whole team, including introverts. The HOTH are a digital marketing company based in Tampa Bay, Florida. I came across them in their marketing where I got some great SEO advice for my website. When I dug a bit further, I discovered that the HOTH was voted Tampa Bay's best workplace in 2020. I thought that might be a really interesting place to start talking about introversion. So this week's interview is with George Papadeas, who is the Chief Operating Officer at the HOTH. But first, it's Introvert Myth of the Week. Introverts don't know how to relax and have fun. And I've heard this quite a few times. So introverts typically relax possibly at home or maybe even in nature or underwater like me, rather than busy public places. They are more sensitive to the neurotransmitter dopamine, the happiness drug. So if there's a lot of talking and noise going on, they probably get overstimulated more quickly, and it feels like their energy drains like a 10-year-old mobile phone battery. But that's not to say they don't know how to relax, they might just do it differently. Do let me know what introvert myth you'd like exposed, or what tip you'd like that would help you to activate the entrepreneurial skills in your business. I'd also love to hear your feedback about this series on the Apple iTunes Store or podchaser.com. Please take a moment after the show. And finally, if you'd like to talk to me about speaking at your conference, virtual or face-to-face, or working with your team, I'd love to hear from you. But now, let's get on with this week's interview. Welcome, George.
Thank you very much, Don. I'm really excited to be here today and talk to you a little bit more about, what we're doing here at the HOTH and how we best support our team members. So anytime I get a chance to brag about us and share to the world, what we're doing, I take the opportunity, but especially with people like you and, folks who know exactly what they're talking about.
One question I ask everybody first, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I identify as an extrovert, at least in my mind. The surroundings I'm in, the external factors affect me most. And so I don't think self first, I think externally first. And so if, I'm in a crowd of people, I'm thinking about the factors that are affecting those other people before those factors affect myself. And so I'm also very outgoing because I use those external factors affecting other people to sort of gauge how I conversate with them, how I communicate with them.
Congratulations on being Best Workplace 2020.
Thank you.
Now, my cynical experience normally suggests that this means firms with lots of flashy decor, games rooms, and things that don't always mean a lot to introverts in particular. But what have you done to make the HOTH such an amazing place to work?
Yeah, that's a really great insight because I've actually found the exact same thing when researching what a best workplace looks like or recognized best workplace is that, some of the times, yes, that a specific workplace really goes to the depths to make sure that their team members are taken care of and that their ecosystem is providing, the most productive work setting for their team members. But a lot of the time you do find surface level type organizations where it's, I use the ping pong reference. If you have a ping pong table, you're automatically a best place to work when you and I both know that just is not the case. And so for us here at the HOTH, yes, we have a really cool work environment, for lack of a better phrase. We don't have any games or ping pong tables, but what we focus on is internal culture. And the setting's great, but really what it boils down to is how do you treat people on an individualized basis? And so the first thing that we did, that our CMO Clayton created, was a culture document. We have a physical, working, breathing, as I like to say, culture document that all of our team members get a copy of on their onboarding. That's the first thing they go through in their onboarding to make sure that they understand, our team members understand that is our priority when it comes to our internal workings with our team. Is culture comes first, and you have to be able to abide by our culture. Now, with that, the reason why we call it living and breathing is because it's continually updating. we realize as we lose team members, as we gain team members, the culture is going to change. The core values are the same, of course, but the intricacies of the culture may change a little bit. Our culture 4 years ago, back in 2016, is going to be significantly different than it is now in 2020 because our team members are older. They have a lot more experience. They have a lot more maturity. They've worked in many different departments of the business. And so, yeah, the culture document's the first one. I can keep going on about that. But having that document.
I really like that, though, because as you described it, a physical, living, breathing document. Because I've seen so many firms where, and you mentioned values as well, they've written out their 5 values, they've stuck them on the wall, and that's it. And nothing ever happens. And then they say, well, nobody adheres to the values. Well,
what does that mean?
Really.
How do you start?
Yeah. So how do you make it? How do you make it living?
Yeah. So the way we do that is really through by accountability. Is our leaders are trained to lead with the culture document. Our team members are trained with, if you have an issue and you just have no idea how to solve it, reference the culture document. And if we have points of course correction or need to hold either processes accountable or individuals accountable, we always utilize the culture document in some way, shape, or form. Conversely, our team members, when they come on, a form of accountability for the organization is our team members are told, this is the most important part of your onboarding. And so when you're going through training, when you're going through, your first client call, when you finally get into your day-to-day of your processes, reference that culture document to see what you think we might need to change. Because, like I said, how we did things a few years ago is a little bit different than how we do it today. And so we make sure we give the empowerment to all of our team members, whether they're introverted or extroverted, to make sure that they're continually thinking about how we update our culture, just so that we can get the best out of everybody.
So that may be an interesting point to jump in and say, what do you do differently with introverts?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the most important part of when you segment extroverts and introverts is being able to figure out each individual's strength. Because while you can segment introverts and extroverts, in my opinion, it's more relevant to really start with what each individual's strengths are and then go from there. With that, once you've identified the strengths, then you definitely have to identify personality, because that's where things might get a little messy, where you may have an introvert and you figure out their strengths and you might think their strength is public speaking, when in reality that's the furthest thing from their strength, even though they may be a good communicator. So I really start with folks' core strengths, and then how you utilize that for them to grow. I have a really interesting, relevant example of my HR team member. Her name is Alize. She started with the HOTH in a support role back in 2017, I believe, right out of college. Alize is one of the most people-focused individuals I've ever met in my life. She's humble, she's nice, she's a hard worker, great work ethic, and has done a lot for our culture in her tenure here at the HOTH. And so it came that the HOTH needed to expand our human resources department because at the time it was just me, and that's not how you scale. And so knowing Alize's strengths of being this just pure people person, I automatically thought, well, Ali would be perfect for our HR role, which she was. However, come to find out, Ali is an introvert, and so we had a lot of development, mainly for me, on how we developed her training, how we developed her onboarding to this new role, and then what this new role would look like. And because we identified her strengths, we identified she's an introvert, we were able to build this role that was best for Ali to succeed, not just for herself in this role, but for our team members as well, now having this human resources representative in the office. And so that's been one of our biggest strengths is that whether you're extrovert or introvert, we're going to get the most out of you here at the HOTH. And hopefully that relevant example showed that.
That's really nice example.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
I really like that one. Just really, really quick one. Do you think that, other than understanding the strengths, do you think that introverts need something different in the office? Some to talk about open plan office not being a great thing for introverts. Do you think?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a really great question. They need their space, and it's physical and mental as well. And so with physical space, it's making sure that if you are leading an introvert, giving them the physical space they need to succeed. And if it's an open layout, then making sure that this open layout is, in a space that is further away, maybe from others, further away from distractions, which might be common areas or break rooms, if you will. But then also mentally is making sure that as a leader that you're giving them the space to learn, to absorb, and then to execute. And specifically with Alize, my last example, that's exactly what we did. She got her own office. And then from a mental standpoint, she was given the ability to really onboard at her own pace so that there were a lot less interruptions, predominantly from me. So,
thank you. Really quickly then, because we're kind of almost run over times. One tip that you'd give for an introvert to shine and add value to where they work?
Communicate as much as possible. There's nothing wrong with communicating yourself and your needs to your leaders. And if your leaders have an issue with it, then you either need to have a hard conversation with them or figure out whether that's the place for you. It all comes down to communication and being open and honest and being your true self. Don't try to be someone you're not.
And I think that's a really important point. Thank you. One tip for leaders to get more value from the whole team in the same way as you guys have done?
Listen. That's it. To be the best leader, you have to be the best listener.
That is fantastic. Thank you, George. George, tell us in 30 seconds a little bit about the HOTH and how people can get back in touch with you, because you've been such a great guest. I don't normally let people advertise, but you've been amazing.
I appreciate that. We're the HOTH. We're a digital marketing an SEO and content service provider out of St. Petersburg, Florida. You can find us at thehoth.com. We do anything and everything digitally from a marketing standpoint for you and your website. Me personally, I'm on LinkedIn, George Papadeas, and then myself, you can reach me. If you have any feedback, or if your listeners have any feedback, you can reach me at george@thehoth.com. Go straight to my cell phone. I read all my emails, and I'd be happy to hear any and all feedback that you all have.
That's amazing. And one quick one I'm just going to add as the music cuts us away is that if you're looking at George on LinkedIn, you'll see his page, and I just absolutely love where other people have pages of ego-driven words. George's profile reads, listen, learn, do, teach. And I just think that's brilliant. George, you've been superb. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Don. I appreciate it very much.
And so it's time for the leadership tip of the week. The tip for people that are leading introverts and want to get more from their whole team, introvert, extrovert, and everything in between. Meetings are where a company's culture and communications can collide, and the losers are either the whole team or the introverts, because most meetings are extrovert in nature. One idea to help you get more involvement from the introverts in your team is to use their internal processing strength. Make sure you get the agenda and meeting notes out much earlier. That will allow them to join in rather than be thinking. As a result, discussions in your meetings will be much richer, and you'll have everybody involved. If you want more ideas about making your meetings more effective so that your culture and your communications improve, you might want to purchase my book, Running Meetings That Make Things Happen. Details are on the sleeve notes, and you can get it from Amazon or on Kindle. Thank you for listening to Activate Your Introvert, and I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. I'd love to see your reviews on the iTunes store. Thank you once again, and catch up with you next week.